historically most RSLs have developed in their own right by assembling land and appointing direct architects and contractors. What we're seeing now is the fusion of RSLs and developers coming together, frequently of necessity because there's unsold stock that needs to be dealt with. And I think certainly from our point of view, what we'd like to see going forward is where there's long-term demand for mixed tenure schemes with an affordable housing element, that we became permanently engaged with those developers to deal with that affordable housing element, and that would, to us, build some complementary skills and help to deliver the mixed tenure schemes of the future.
So can you see consolidation between the two sides, subject to the legislation that might have to be sort of tiptoed around there because they've got different constitutions? But
I would tend to think more cooperation than partnership working rather than consolidation, I would suspect.
I think the willing parties, I think what the market's made is that they're willing to come together and look and see how they can work together, rather than sort of staying separate and thinking, oh, we've got an affordable housing on our planning act, so we'll have to do something. Whereas now it's let's see what we can do. So I think there's a more willingness, isn't there, to look, and it's a good time now to develop those skills and how we can take it forward.
But is that cooperation driven by current economic conditions that the parties are put together because that's the best way that they can continue to develop, but as soon as the market returns to perhaps more normal levels, will there be a struggle in delivering those type of schemes? Because will private developers go off into the distance and do schemes that are going to generate a greater profit, and will they be interested in the HCA and money that you're perhaps able to put into the sector because they'll be able to generate better returns elsewhere?
Sorry, if I can, I mean, there are developers who historically have done that anyway. It's the niche developers who've had a role working with RSL, so it's not a new thing. I just think the more mainstream developers having to move into that area now. So I think once the market returns to perhaps normal circumstances, then you might see that separation again, but I don't think they'll move away altogether.
No, and I think the skills will be there. So again, the associates, they will have had the skills and the input from people working together, and I think more that you cross over between the two, the more it gets them to work together.
What I would hope that we get out of this is that housing associations and developers talk to each other and get involved with each other at a much earlier stage than perhaps they had been doing, because I think that will produce some better results through using Section 106 kind of mechanisms going forward as well.
And will the councils be receptive to those discussions?
Well, I would hope so, because I think it's quite often it can happen that you get so far down the line with the Section 106 discussion, and then people decide that some form of grant is needed in order to make it work, and it would actually be better to have those discussions and agreements up front and have everybody signed up to that so we can move it forward effectively.
But even without grant funding, you can get 106 agreements that are very prescriptive and mention affordable housing, and hang on a minute, we actually haven't used any of your money to put forward that scheme, and you're still providing those restrictions to us, and that restriction prevents us getting finance elsewhere to do other things on the site.
But we have a need for affordable housing, and we need to use the mechanisms available to us in order to try and deliver them. And if we can do that without grant, then in many ways that's a good thing.